Hey guys, what's up? Scotch Duck here once again. Right, are you ready for a overly long, overly rambly video of me going on and on about my 10 favourite games in 2021? Of course you are. You know the drill around here by now. Actually, it's been a while since I uploaded. I should sell a t-shirt. Have I made that joke before? I should sell a t-shirt like that? I probably have, okay? I'm just incapable of new original YouTube content, alright? That's just... Why are you guys still subscribed? I don't know. Anyway, top 10 games, 2021. 2021 overall was pretty good, I must say. You know, it was, it's funny because this was sort of the year where I figured we'd be seeing like a majority of the delays in relation to the pandemic. Because, obviously the pandemic happened at the beginning of last year. But, obviously these games take a while to come out. So things that came out this year were obviously in development then, as well as things coming out in 2022. So, I don't know, are we going to see, like, I feel like we haven't had that delay yet, though. Like that sort of, like, missing games or things getting, just that dry spell. If anything, there's, like, more games coming out than ever, it feels like. Maybe I just don't have the time to play them, but I think the main thing about, 2021 was... This was like a year where a lot of like IPs that like went away for a little while came back in like a big way. A lot of IPs that I personally really like or really used to like. So it's been very nostalgic year. Just to give like a few honorable mentions right off the bat. Tales of Arise. I haven't enjoyed the Tales game that much in a while, but I didn't finish it. Some other games came out around the time I was playing it, and it kind of went to the side, sadly. Same with Shin Megami Tensei 5. Never really enjoyed the Shin Megami Tensei game like this as much yet. I kind of stopped playing it partially because other stuff came out, but also partially I want to play it on like PS4 or PC, and if data mines are to be believed, those versions are coming, and my god does it fucking need it. Nier Replicant, really like Nier, really loved the original Nier that Replicant was a remake of, obviously, but again, just didn't finish it, don't know why. Great game though, I really enjoyed it. A Harvest Moon came out this year. Pioneers of Olive Town. Never even touched it. I've got it. Never touched it. It's so weird, guys. And there's a few other remasters and remakes like Monkey Ball Banana Mania. Not the biggest Monkey Ball guy, but I kind of wanted to bring it up because again, it's one of those IPs that just went away for a while but then came back, which is really cool. But yeah, here we go onto my actual list right now. Number 10. Oh boy. See, I considered just putting all this out in a tweet. Okay, I thought, I can't be arsed making a video. Let's just put together a list of 10 games and tweet about them. But then I realized as I started with this first game, I got way too much to say. This might take up half the video, guys. I'm sorry. But yeah, my number 10 is Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis. Now, last year, my game of the year was Phantasy Star Online 2. Okay, we finally got that outside of Japan. We were able to play it. It was brilliant. Not a perfect game, I feel like, because it was such a weird... it was such weird timing, The game was 8 years old in Japan, and we got, all this content right there, and we were able to play it. And, like I said, it was old and janky and shit, but it was there, and it felt good that Phantasy Star was, back, At least outside of Japan. But then we got the announcement... When was that exact announcement? I think it was at the end of 2020, actually, that pretty much the reason why that game got localized in the first place was not because they were finally wanting to give us it, but because they were planning to localize a whole new version of the game, Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis, running on a completely new engine. It was going to have really good looking graphics, really good combat, and it was just going to be the next proper Phantasy Star game, while still being connected to the old game, okay? I think a lot of people get confused about that, because it's something that's never really been done before. You know what I mean? But that's essentially what it was. It was like an update to an old game, even though it was a completely new game, but it was still attached to the old game. You could switch between them with the same character. Like I said, never really been done before. But the reason it's number 10 is because I can't decide, guys, if I want to put this game at number 1 this year, or I want to keep it off the list entirely. Because it's been rough, okay? The game came out, and that first, week or two, maybe the first month was bliss. I loved it. Just exploring the world, the amazing combat, grinding and, getting new weapons and shit and fight. It's just, it was bliss, I was in heaven. But after a while, you kind of realize this game has a lot of issues. Like, there's after you've kind of like done the story and collected as much as you want to do, you've got like a weapon that you want. There isn't really anything to do, and there was obviously like a lot of like little controversies throughout the year that really made being a fan hard, you know, because a lot of people were obviously looking at it being like, this is shite, what the fuck. But if you were all of sort of like main Phantasy Star fans were trying to like stick with it, even though it felt like they were doing damage control most of the time. We had like, I remember there was the update, it was on October 13th, that added like a bunch of stuff, and it was like substantial stuff to like really help strengthen the gameplay loop, like adding things like the mission pass and battle dia quests and blah blah blah. And when I look back on it, it wasn't really that big of an update, but at the time we ate it up. We were like, new content, holy shit, new content. And but yeah, that was again another like week or two of that update where I was in heaven again. And of course, just the other couple of weeks ago there, we got the new region, which basically doubled the size of the Earth, and we're going to get something like that every 6 months. And again, I was in heaven again. In fact, I'm still kind of in heaven. I'm still playing the game every day. So I just don't know, guys. I just don't know. A part of me wants to put it at number 1. I really do. I really did enjoy Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis in 2021. But there's too many drawbacks that Sega really needs to learn to. And I feel like they are getting it. They're healing, you know. I think that's the consensus throughout the community now, is that, you know, Sega is clearly making a bunch of like right decisions now. So who knows what the game's going to be like in next year. Not that it will be on any lists of mine next year because it came out in 2021. So, aye. Whatever. Why not? I feel like, I'm hoping this is the game that I rant about the most, is Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis. But yeah, overall, great game. Definitely had some problems. Time will heal. Anyway, now my number 9 is another Sega game that also kind of came out arguably a bit too quickly with a little bit of controversy and all that. Sega are good at that, aren't they? But yeah, Virtua Fighter 5 Ultimate Showdown. Now I'm kind of cheating here, right? Because when I make these lists, I don't really like to include like sort of like re-releases, remasters, or anything to that degree. Because I want to focus on stuff that's like new and came out that year. But this was quite a substantial like remaster, you know, they ported it to an entirely new engine, looks fantastic, and it's of a series that, honestly guys, I have been looking to properly step into for like decades, you know? Because you all know I love Shenmue, alright, and Virtua Fighter has always had that sort of like link to Shenmue. But I've never really properly sat down and like gotten into Virtua Fighter. Like, I have this thing in my brain, okay, where when I play fighting games, I love fighting games. I love looking at like competitive play. I love looking at character lore and stuff like that, you know. But I can never like sit down and play a fighting game because my brain is like, you can't play this casually, Donald. You need to get good at this. You need to like pick a character, learn every move, and like every scenario, otherwise you're not playing it properly. Like, that's what my stupid brain does whenever I play a fighting game, and I can't enjoy them casually. It's so stupid, but I tried my best, guys. I tried my best to do that with Virtua Fighter. I picked a main for the first time ever since I sort of like got into the series, which was Jackie. I now main Jackie. Went online, played a bunch, had a lot of fun, learned quite a few moves. And again, that's what I'm saying, I had a lot of fun, I really did, but I didn't like get super hardcore online, learning every single like move, getting to all the achievements and sort of thing. So in my own head, it's like, did I really play it? But of course I really played it, and I had fun. So it's a weird feeling. My stupid brain just does this, but I'm happy with putting Virtua Fighter 5 on my list here. As for the problems that the game has, there was obviously like issues with the online, you know. It did not have rollback netcode, which I've never used rollback netcode, but I witnessed the fucking like community, the fighting game community, enough to know that, you know, it's like rollback netcode or bust. And it's a PS4 exclusive, which is also really weird. But yeah, hopefully that can be rectified. In fact, I don't know if I want them to keep supporting Virtua Fighter 5 Ultimate Showdown, or if I just want EM2 to make a whole new game. You know, not even necessarily like Virtua Fighter 6. Just make like a Fighters Megamix 2 with a whole bunch of like Sega characters using the same engine or something like that, you know? I mean, obviously we heard this year, very depressingly, that Sega had sold off a majority of their arcade business in Japan. So, and they still have these arcade developers in-house that are always making games, and AM2 is one of them. You know, AM2 never went away. It feels like they did, because when they went off making like hardware, and Virtua Fighter became less and less of a priority, we pretty much only saw the AM2 logo in a few Hatsune Miku games. But I'm hoping that they get more and more into console development going forward. You know, I would really love that. I really want to see AM2 make a comeback, because they're still there, and they're still kicking arse. So, here's hoping for that. But yeah, Virtua Fighter 5 Ultimate Showdown is my number 9. Let me get my list up here. So, my number 8 is... I'll probably have a lot less to say about this, actually. My number 8 is Persona 5 Strikers. Now, a pretty moderate Persona fan, to be honest. You know, I like playing good games, so I like playing Persona, naturally. And this was the sort of latest in, like, certain franchises that were getting made into Dynasty Warriors-style games. Muso? Is that what they get called? Muso games? I'm not so sure, but yeah, but Omega Force, okay? And the Dynasty Warriors, like, formula is something that we all know, okay? Like, oh, that's a Dynasty Warriors game, okay? Your mind immediately goes to something. But this honestly felt, like, so unique, you know, because there wasn't any, like, giant raids or whatever. There was a lot of, like, enemies to fight, but it wasn't that sort of, like, button mashing, you know, like, brain dead, you know, combat that everybody sort of associates with it. Often unfairly, I feel. But it really was a lot more RPG than it has been before, you know? And I really liked Hyrule Warriors, and I really liked the first Dragon Quest heroes. But I think this one's my favorite, you know? And it obviously is like a proper sequel to Persona 5 with the story and all that, so you got like all of those characters that I really liked. As well as some other new characters that I really fell in love with as well. And yeah, it's definitely the best game by Omega Force I've played. I've not played too much, but... I really did appreciate this. And it was also a big deal because it was one of the first Atlas games that kind of came out multi-platform. And they've kind of been embracing multi-platform. You know, it's a case-by-case basis right now, but hopefully they'll like continue to do so. Even though I played it on PC and that version had some issues. Crashed on me after beating a couple of bosses. I was pissed. But yeah, I'm a Persona 5 Strikers. Great game. And yeah. Do I talk about Persona 5 coming to PC or Switch? Nah, fuck it. Anyway. So, my number 7 is Resident Evil 8. So, yeah. Kind of like Persona. Kind of a moderate Resi fan. But again, it's just one of those series is that you... every time one comes out, you know, you can't help but look at it. You're not going to not play it, and that was the case with me. And I feel like Resident Evil 7 was a really great shake-up for the series. You know, it needed it, alright, because obviously Resident Evil 6 was a bit... And we got Resident Evil 7, it was great. Then we got the Resident Evil 2 remake, which was also fantastic, you know. So this was like the big new game. Such a weird game, you know? Like, I don't know what to make of it. But you can tell that Capcom, you know, they're not too shy about doing different things with the series, are they? You're just in this big village, which, to be fair, there's a lot of Resident Evil 4 inspiration in this game, I feel, as well. But, really? I kind of feel like it was just more Resident Evil 7, you know? Plays the same guy. It was that same sort of like cutting about resource management that we know Resident Evil 4. The story was pretty crazy. I think overall I preferred 7. I just feel like 7 was more... I just liked the fact that that one was more enclosed, you know? You had like just like the Baker Mansion and other like little things going on, whereas this was like a whole village, a whole like lore dump and shit with... all the new characters and whatnot. It was a lot more simple in 7, and I kind of preferred it that way. But it was still great, you know. I still enjoyed it immensely. Didn't touch that Reverse, was it? That friggin' like that friggin' like multiplayer game that they attached to it that looks so terrible. Never touched that. Not really went over any of the DLC either. But yeah, it was a good time. Resident Evil 8. I played it on PC again, and I really want to replay it on PS5 just to see how much nicer it looks, because I got my PS5. It's probably something I should point out in general. You know, I got the PS5 this year, which obviously opened up a bunch of like new games to play on there, which was really good. But whatever. Resident Evil. Why do I keep messing up the number? Resident Evil 8 Village. Yeah, number 7. So next up is number 6, and this is another franchise that I wouldn't say I'm a big fan of, but again, anytime one comes out, I'm gonna pay attention, and it was brilliant. Metroid Dread. So, yeah. Really like Metroid, you know? I'm surprised I'm not really a big stupid fan of it. When Samus Returns came out like a few years ago for the 3DS, you know, I remember being quite apologetic, is that the word I want to use here? Towards it, because everybody at that time that it came out, nobody really paid attention to it because the Switch was already out, and like I don't know, Nintendo fans drop stuff really quickly. You know, like I felt like the Wii U was dropped too much. I know a lot of people will disagree with that, but even the 3DS was just like 3DS. What was that? All right, boomer. You know, so, like I always got that from Nintendo fans, but whatever. We got a new Metroid game. It was on a nice new shiny Switch. I will say, upon playing it, I got like so many flashbacks of Samus Returns, and by extension, like you know, Super Metroid. Like I remember I got to a point where I came across a block that I was unable to get through without like a certain missile or something, and I did have that moment where I'm like, oh, I'm fucking sick of these blocks. So I don't know. maybe that was just my sort of like brain saying, you know what? As good as this is, Donald, I think you need something new. But we are getting something new, hopefully, with Metroid Prime 4. But yeah, back to the game itself. It's brilliant. Okay, it was just a really good Metroid game, and that's all you needed, really. I loved the challenge of it. This game was hard. In fact, what was it? Let me just bring up a game that I played at the same time, right? That is not on the list. Kena Bridge of Spirits. You know that game, the sort of like Pikmin style game. I played that game. That game kicked my arse, guys. I don't know if I was doing something wrong, but I was dying all the time in Kena Bridge of Spirits, and I was getting so mad. I'm like, what the fuck? Why do I keep dying? Like, I feel like I must have been doing something wrong. It was frustrating. But the same thing happened in Metroid Dread. I always kept dying, especially that last boss. Holy shit, that took me like an hour and a half, you know? But I was never frustrated. I never got frustrated during that boss fight. I was just like, every time I died, I was just so ready to get back in and give it another try, alright? And I'm no game developer, but I gotta commend, see when a game developer can do that. They can make a game like so hard, but they just like, it's not frustrating. Like, that just seems really hard to do, you know? But they did it here. And so yeah, Mercury Stream, Nintendo, good job. It was fucking fantastic. Can't wait for more of the Metroid franchise in the future. So, thank you. Okay, top 5 now. Now, this is going to piss all of you off, alright? Especially those of you that do not know me. Because you're going to be like, fucking clickbait, and then just click off at this. So I'll check my YouTube analytics to see when people checked out after I said this. But my number 5 for this year is Balan Wonderworld. That game that everybody made fun of. There's so much YouTube clickbait, so many exaggerated thumbnails. Yeah, it's an absolute objective failure. Is my 5th favorite game this year. Okay. Now, for those of you that come into the stream, I go on about this a lot, so I'm going to just repeat myself here, but it's not that fucking bad, alright? Like, I don't know, I think just the right people played that friggin' demo that they released like 2 months before it came out, and everybody just like collectively decided this is shite. Of course it's shite, it's by the guy that made Sonic, and Sonic is so shite. Even like that sort of like Sonic cycle mentality where there's a real embracing of the negativity of things. You know, like everybody just wanted to like play this game so they could rag on it, which is so ironic considering the subject matter that the game has, okay, in the game's like lore and story, okay? It's all about like balancing your emotions, like accepting the positive as well as the negative. The community did not, the gaming community, or whatever you want to call it, did not like get that, and they just braced all the negativity, sadly. And Yeah, I fucking love this game, okay? I don't give a shit, alright? I mean, I know that there are definitely objective problems with the gameplay, alright? And a lot of my love for it does stem from the fact that I'm a massive Nights into Dreams fan, okay? So I kind of had that, like, mindset going in, that this is an old-school Sonic Team game, made in the style of, like, Nights into Dreams. It's a very style over substance sort of thing. You know, you're not necessarily like playing it for the gameplay, at least I'm not. You're playing it for like the characters, the story, the lore, the music, the environments. All that stuff is like brilliant and just as good as Nights as far as I'm concerned. I listen to the music all the time and it fills me with nice fluffy feelings, alright? So, yeah, like I'm just a massive unapologetic Balan fan, alright? And I feel like it was so unfortunate what happened to the game. You know, it could have done with like a bit of support, but I think after that demo came out, Square themselves even decided this isn't worth it and just gave Yuji Naka the boot. To be fair, Yuji Naka is still in game development. He just released like his own little phone game, which I haven't tried out. I'm not too fussed about it, but I don't know if he'll ever come back to big AAA development or whatever. But, you know, he didn't deserve the sort of like thrashing that he got for this game, because it's really not that bad. If you haven't played it yet, you can get it for super cheap now, okay? All I ask, I'm not saying go out and buy it, but all I ask is that if the opportunity ever arises, please go into it. Don't think about your favorite influencer and their wonderful, like, you know, YouTube thumbnail or their rant, like, I played Balan Wonderworld so you didn't have to, sort of thing. Like, just try and keep that out of your mind and go into it with an open mind. That's all I ask. That's all I ask, okay? But yeah, Balan Wonderworld, number 5. Absolutely. Okay. Now, I'll tell you this, right? We're going up to the top 4 right now, and these are the ones that I would say go into like an S tier category. You know, like there are times when I play a game and I'm just like, this is fucking special. This is like the shit right here, and I want to like cherish it for forever. Okay, maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit there, but basically, I'd set these apart from the games that have been mentioned previously, in my own sort of, like, mind, I suppose. So, number 4 is, this should be actually, I say it should be a surprise to no one, but it should be a surprise that it's this low, Lost Judgment. Lost Judgment is, like, always on my top 10 games of the year, and it's almost always number 1, okay? Like a Dragon. No, Like a Dragon was number 2, actually, because of Phantasy Star Online 2, but yeah. Do I go on about why I love the RGG game so much? You all know this. It's fucking fantastic. And this game, I will definitely say overall, is better than the first game. But I think the reason why I'm not as, like, I'm not, like, shooting at it for number 1, because obviously it's still quite high on the list. The story was a bit weird. I did actually like the story, but it was definitely a bit of a mess, alright? And, yeah, the thing about the Judgment series is that they go into more sort of like current affairs issues with Japan and how they like run things over there. You know, certain social issues is what they tend to explore. You know, like the first game actually did a decent job conveying how Japan is looking to handle their aging population, and this Lost Judgment kind of like went into how Japan should be like looking out for their like younger citizens more, you know. I don't want to give away too much, but yeah, the story's definitely got some heart, alright? And pretty much everything else about it, like I said, is better than the first one. The combat was so much better, added new fighting styles, they were brilliant. You actually like explore a high school, and when I heard about that, usually when I hear about high schools in a Japanese game, I'm like, alright, fucking hell. But in terms of like an RGG game, I'm like, that's perfect. There's going to be so many like great RGG style side content to be had in a fucking high school, and they're going to have so much fun with it. But it's also funny, I didn't actually touch too much of the side content. I do this thing with certain RGG games where I'll start playing them and I'll be doing like a bunch of side content, and then I'll get like a bit into the story and I won't want to stop. I want to keep going until I get to the end, and when I get to the end, I kind of feel like I'm done with it. Because I did try to go back and do some more side content, but it just wasn't happening. I was just like, I think I'm done with this, really. So, but it was still great. Okay, it was still great. And we're getting DLC next year, starring Kaito. very interested to see how that turns out. But regardless, Lost Judgment, number 4. Now, number 2 and 3, right? Honest to God, guys, can't decide which one I like more. Okay, they're both platformers. Okay, they're both from franchises that have been away for a good while, and I don't know which to put over the other. It's a really struggling with it. And that's Psychonauts 2 and Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. I'm sure many of you are, because I know like a lot of people obviously found this channel through the Ratchet and Clank series. I get asked about Rift Apart like pretty much every day, you know. But yeah, Psychonauts 2 was also really fucking good, okay? Let's talk about that one first, right? So, I got into Psychonauts at the point where it was already considered like an underrated like classic, you know, like when all the sort of like teenage gaming hipsters were like talking about these games that, oh, they should have sold more. Fuck everybody for not buying them. I know I didn't buy them, but fuck you for buying them, not buying it as well. You know, like in the same vein as something like Beyond Good and Evil or Okami, you know, these famous flops, if you will, and Psychonauts was definitely that. But it also definitely became a massive cult hit that had like a lot of legs at the time. You know, a lot of people played Psychonauts as time went on. And it was a bit of a disaster getting this game like made, to be fair. Like they had like a whole weird crowdfunding thing that it wasn't on Kickstarter, it wasn't on Indiegogo, it was on like Fig. And Fig was like owned by a company that Tim Schafer also owned. And Tim Schafer himself was also a bit of a political nightmare when it came to like his Twitter and all that. So he'd like lost a bit of a love from fans in that department. But obviously they took a long time to make this game. Things went quiet, and they eventually even, you know, they got bought by Microsoft, and Microsoft essentially funded the rest of the game and all that. And yeah, it was amazing. So like I can only imagine what the game would have been like without Microsoft buying Double Fine. But I can definitely say I'm happy that they did, okay, because they made a game that was so like in keeping with the first game. But I don't know, this I loved like the game's story. It was very like emotional. I loved like all the themes that they did, because you know that was the whole point of Psychonauts, was going into certain people's minds that had dealt with various like mental issues, and Raz is sort of like the one that goes in and fixes everything. And they I can't say I'm like too familiar with various mental issues, but they kind of handled things very well, I would say. You know, I definitely appreciate that. And yeah, the game is just loads of fun. You know, I played it on Xbox Live Game Pass, didn't actually play it myself, admittingly. But if they ever come out with a physical version of it, you bet your arse I'm going to double dip on that. So, well, I didn't even technically dip the first time, but yeah, Psychonauts 2. And the other one, obviously, is Ratchet and Clank A Crack in Time. It's Rift Apart, for fuck's sake, no. And there's not too much to really say. It's Ratchet and Clank again, you know? So what makes this one unique? You play as a girl, Lumbax now, who's like from another dimension, and it was Ratchet and Clank, guys. It looked fucking brilliant. Okay, so it was, what the fuck more? I really do not know what to say. Okay, it was just not a Ratchet and Clank game, and I was very grateful for it. It was the best Ratchet and Clank game to come out since A Crack in Time 2009. Okay, I feel like everything that came out sort of like after that, not that everything was like bad, but nothing was like as good as A Crack in Time. Nothing came out that I would consider like a proper Ratchet and Clank like sequel, you know. So yeah, there you go. You know, it's funny, I still haven't went back and 100%ed it. I'm kind of treating it the same way I treated like Lost Judgment, where usually I would, for an RGG game, I would go back and you know, finish everything off, but I never really did that with this game. I don't know why. I really need to. So yeah, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, fuck yes. So my game of the year 2021 is there's pretty much no contest here, because again, it was for a franchise that I adore to death and kind of like went away for a little bit, and now it's back, and it's such a miracle that this game came out in the first place. It really is. The Great Ace Attorney. Yeah, I love me some fucking Ace Attorney, and these games were, again, it's just so crazy that Capcom went and did this to me. Alright, because these were games that were exclusive to Japan. There was an era that I remember so vividly where sort of like around the second half of the 3DS's lifespan, well, not even like the second half, like mainly throughout all of its lifespan, really, where I don't know what it was. Was it a result of like the global recession or something? But a lot of Japanese companies figured, okay, we can't compete with American-made games like your Call of Duties and all that. We're just going to retreat. We're just going to sell games in our own country now and not even bother like localizing them, all right? Unless they were like mega hits like Final Fantasy, Mario, Sonic, whatever. And Ace Attorney was one of those like casualties, and they treated it like so half-arsely because the last few 3DS games did get localizations, but they weren't very good and they were digital only. I've ranted about that a bunch. But here was an Ace Attorney game, 2 games technically, that were very like, how should I put this? Very different from before because they were prequels set like 150 odd year ago, and you actually played as Phoenix Wright's ancestor, because obviously in Japan Phoenix Wright is Japanese. He's not called Phoenix Wright. He's called like Ryuichi Naruhodo. All right, they just changed all the names for the like localization, and people really gravitated towards him, so nobody minds. But you couldn't really do that with this because he's carrying around a fucking samurai sword. All right, so what do you do? But they localized it. Not only did they localize it, they ported these old 3DS games over to newer hardware. Okay, this is like a big undertaking. All right, and Capcom couldn't have had too much proof that there was a lot of like, desire for this. Like, they released the Ace Attorney like trilogy on Steam and all the other consoles, so maybe that did better than they thought, so they were like, you know what, maybe it's worth digging up these old 3DS games and giving them another shot. And, I don't have any numbers, but I'm fairly decently confident in saying that it was a success, I know a lot of people that have played this. It almost had like a Yakuza 0 effect, where this was like a prequel to the series, and it's brought in like so many newcomers, and now everybody's gonna like go back to the older games and be like, why are we playing as these other characters, alright? Why is this not like the first game that I played, Like, I get that with Yakuza a lot, but yeah. I feel like I'm okay in saying that it is my favorite Ace Attorney game. It used to be the first game, but now it's this. This is, I'll count the great Ace Attorney Chronicles as one game. Even though it's both 3DS games together, it kind of just tells it as like one game. And yeah, it's really, really fucking good, guys. You don't need to have any prior knowledge of Ace Attorney. You can jump right into this one. Fucking hell, please just play it. It's so good. Yeah. Yeah. That's my game of the year of 2021. Right. How long did I go on for? About 33 minutes. Fucking hell. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you have a good 2022. And yeah. That's that. See you guys. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.